welcome back to the chat with Quabs. So today's video is going to be kind of a serious video. Well, not serious, but important video, because I think this is something that everybody needs, no matter who you are, no matter how old you are, no matter where you're from. Everybody needs this topic, and I'm going to be talking about why is therapy important. I'm shaking my legs, guys, so if I'm shaking, that's why. Disclaimer. So let me just say this instead, that even more than therapy, I think what is more important, or what I'm trying to get at, and therapy is one of the tools that you can use to get at this, is inner healing. I think everybody, no matter who you are, needs some form of inner healing, because throughout our lives, and even beyond where we are right now, we're going to need to get to a point where we deal with the things that have happened to us, the wounds that we carry. Basically, inner healing is addressing wounds that people have carried throughout their lives based on how people treated you, what someone did to you, how you perceived people's actions towards you, how you perceived what people thought of you, and just kind of how that affects our lenses and how we view the world. So basically, when I talk about inner healing, I'm talking about addressing wounds. And therapy is one of the ways to address the wounds in our hearts. And sometimes it's so unconscious to us because we've done so many things to address them, by maybe covering them up or adopting defense mechanisms against that type of treatment, so that in the future we can, defend ourselves or keep ourselves safe from that type of thing. Or just our personality starts to develop a shape, be shaped around our experiences of what people have done to us, or how we perceive what people have done to us. Some of the things that cause the wounds are real, that means it actually happened, and some of them are perceived, is how we thought about what people did to us. So I think it's very important that we sit down and at some point in our lives make a decision that we are going to take stock of everything that has happened to us and say, it's enough. I need to deal with those things so that I can move forward to become a better version of myself. That's basically what this channel is about. It's really equipping people to get to a place where they become better versions of themselves. And dealing with your wounds and going through inner healing is very important for our future, for who we are going to be in the future, right? So let me say this also, that sometimes the personality that we adopt based on trying to adopt defense mechanisms against the world is unconscious. We don't realize that that's what we're doing. We don't realize that that's how we're thinking. We don't realize that that's how we treat people because of these things that have happened to us. It's very unconscious. So sometimes when people talk about things like that, you can easily brush it off like, oh, I don't really need any type of inner healing because there's nothing wrong with me. Like, there's nothing that has happened to me that has affected me so deeply. And so we can easily brush it off. I feel like maybe people have a negative perception of dealing with your inner man, like your inner self. And I just want to dispel that lie or that misconception, because everybody, no matter who you are, every single human being, by virtue of being on this earth, has some type of wound that they have to deal with. And even moving forward, you are going to have to deal with things that people will keep doing to you, both unconsciously and consciously, and how you perceive people's actions towards you. Because by virtue of being in a relationship with people, we're going to always have wounds. And there's another aspect of this where, as you get healthier, you're able to deal better with how people treat you. But right now, I'm just going to talk about, addressing what it is that we have right now, like what our issues are right now, because we all got issues, guys. We got issues. Let me say that also, one reason why people might not think that they need inner healing, or they need to deal with their wounds, or they need therapy, is because the tools that we adopt to keep ourselves safe, they work for a while, because obviously it makes sense at that point in time that if you don't want this to repeat, that you take up these tools. It does work for some time, but then you get to a place where things don't work, because the reality is that defense mechanisms do not work long term. They are like band-aids or bandages that we put on the problem, thinking that they're going to solve the problem forever, but they don't. So you get to a place in your life where you're struggling with who you are, because the reality is who you have become because of the defense mechanisms that you've adopted or the personality that you've taken on is not who you really are. You just took on that nature because you were trying to deal with the things that were coming against you. And so that's the part that I'm also trying to get at, and why I think you need to work within yourself. You need to do the work on yourself, on your heart, on your soul, so that you can get beyond who you become, which is not who you are, to who you should be, who you really are inside. And I don't want to scare people. I don't want people to start thinking that this is too deep or this, but it's deep, yes, but it's important, guys. It really is. So take this seriously, and whatever you're going to learn from this video, I hope it kind of helps you, gives you some tools for making decisions about how to deal with yourself moving forward. Yeah? So I think the reason why I'm such a proponent of therapy is because it's one of, and I keep saying one of the tools, because there are other things that people can do to deal with their inner wounds, right? And well, let me start by one of the other things that you can do. But I think that eventually, right, you're going to have some type of conversation with someone where you deal with the things that happen to you. One way that we can start even working on our inner man, or like our inner self, is by being honest with yourself, guys. Be honest with yourself. I think sometimes, and maybe that's because people don't know how to be honest with themselves, but taking time to just sit down and look at yourself, look at your patterns, listen to what people have said about you, not people who are just mean and want to, hurt you or do, not even that, but even sometimes that, because there might be truth in it. But more than anything, look at the patterns, the things that keep happening, the things that you do that you know you shouldn't be doing, the things that people have said that you do that you know you shouldn't be doing. Just kind of like taking stock of who you are. I think that's very important. That's a very important first step. People need to take time away from the busyness of life, or away from hanging out with your friends, or like trying to not spend time with yourself, like always going out there and trying to be with people rather than being with yourself. There's nothing wrong with being with people. I'm a huge proponent of that. I love being with people, but I think that there's something to just sitting at home and sometimes just not even putting on the TV to distract yourself, but saying that, who am I really? And trying to get to the bottom of that. There's a level of introspection that we all need to do and to have, where we can kind of uncover some of the layers that we have put on ourselves that are unconscious to us, because we just keep going through life without thinking about, who we really are underneath. I think we all need to do some type of introspection. And once you get to that place where you kind of have a better understanding of the things that you do and the way that you think, I think even the next step from that is just observe yourself in action, basically. When you go out and you're interacting with people, just be conscious of what you're doing. Be self-aware, be self-conscious, and see kind of what things that you do that you shouldn't be doing, or like the way that you think about people that you know is wrong. And combat those things by doing the opposite of what you would naturally do, because that is the problem. We just naturally react to life based on how we think, or the lenses that we've put on because of our inner wounds issues, right? But one way to kind of go about it is to say, okay, I know that I tend to do this, and I know that the thing that I tend to do isn't right, so I'm going to do the other thing, and sometimes you're not going to get it right all the time, obviously, but this is something that is important to be aware of. So what I'm basically preaching is self-consciousness and self-awareness, because we are not self-aware. Some people can do things and you just sit down and wonder, are you aware of like who you are you aware of what you're doing? Being conscious of your actions towards other people, not just going through life just doing things and just like flapping around, not aware of what's going on, but taking stock of what you're doing on a daily basis. I think that's important. And on top of even doing that introspection is looking at the things that have hurt you, that you've kind of buried underneath, because that's where the inner wounds are. Because sometimes things happen and we bury them underneath several different things in our hearts, because we don't want to deal with them, because they were too painful, because we didn't understand why it happened and things like that. But for you to be really healthy, for you to be really free, you need to uncover all those things. And this is why I make the point about therapy being very helpful, because while you can do some of the work yourself, right, there's not a lot of work that you can do by yourself, because you have blind spots, because you're unconscious of your behavior, because you just don't see everything that you do, because especially because of the years and years of, things that have happened to us that we've just buried underneath all sorts of layers. We sometimes need, and not sometimes, we always need help uncovering those things. And this is not just because it's nice to go and sit with someone and just talk about your issues, but no, it's because you want to get healed. You want to get better. You want to become a better version of yourself. You don't want to keep doing the things that you know are toxic, but kind of you're used to doing because that's what you've always done. But making up your mind to say that I know there's a better way and I want to find that better way, but right now I don't know how to find that better way, so I need someone to help me, right? So that's where I think therapy comes in. And guys, you guys know I'm a Christian, so I'm going to always bring the godly version of anything, because I think that is the superior way to go about dealing with who you are as a person. And you can disagree with me, but that's fine. But my job here is to just make sure people understand that there are things that we have to deal with, and there are tools around us that we can use to deal with those things. So for me, I always recommend that if you're going to find someone that you want to talk to about your issues because you're trying to get better, that you find a Christian therapist. Seriously, find someone who knows the word of God, who knows who God is, or who can direct you in a godly manner when it comes to like dealing with your issues, because you don't want someone who doesn't know how to properly direct you once you figure out like what's going on underneath. So I think that it's important for us to find godly people, even if you don't have the money to afford a therapist. Find people who you know have wisdom, who have godly wisdom, who know the word of God, who you can talk to, people you can trust, please. People you can trust, who are not going to betray your secrets to, or the things that are going on internally to other people. And that can take time. But I mean, I guess maybe what I'm really trying to do over here is to get people to start thinking about that aspect of your life. Don't just think about your future, or don't just think about the next thing, or don't just be like living your life not aware of who you are or what is going on internally. Be aware that in addition to the physical world, that we have an internal world, and that world has to be dealt with, because that is where all our behavior, all our actions, or all our thoughts, and even the way we see the world comes from. Because we might think that we're just living life, and there's nothing else that happens outside of us just living our lives. But we have to realize that what is controlling the way we live our lives is what we internally think about ourselves, what we think about other people, and all of that. And one thing that I have to add is that even as you're doing this work of being introspective and looking at what has hurt you in the past, who has hurt you in the past, remember that one of your other tools in addition to therapy is forgiveness. And maybe I'll do a video on forgiveness and why forgiveness is important. And I know a lot of people have heard about why forgiveness is important, but maybe just going into a deeper dive as to why it's important, I'll do another video on that. But I think that part of the tools that we have in our toolbox is forgiving people. That is part of the inner healing process, right? Of releasing people that have wounded us in the past, that didn't understand us, that did things that we were kind of like, wow, like what would prompt a human being to do this, things like that, because that is part of your healing, right? And not blaming people, but taking responsibility for where you are right now, not playing victim. Because sometimes we might start doing this work and be like, oh, but this person did this to me and they shouldn't have done that, and they are a bad person, or they did the wrong thing, and always looking at the other person but not looking at who you are. Not to say that you are to blame for anything, but to say that I'm going to take responsibility of my life, because it's my life, right? It's not this person's life, it's my life. So you did this to me, but I'm taking responsibility of my life, and I'm going to do something better for myself, because in the end, it's your life, right? So being responsible for yourself, not saying that someone did this to me so it's their fault to fix it, or they have to say sorry. Even if they don't say sorry, you know that for you to live a better life, for you to move forward, you need to take responsibility of your life and do the things that you need to do to get the healing that you need, right? So I mean, I've kind of added other things to this conversation that are outside of therapy, but I feel like there's such a stigma on therapy that needs to be removed, because no matter who you are, you're going to need some form of therapy. It might not be in the traditional sense of going to lay on a couch and talking about your issues to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, I don't know. But even if it's in your church, finding your pastor to talk to, I don't know, get some type of inner healing help. Inner healing be intentional about going out there to find what resources you have that can deal with the things that have, you know, stacked up in your life over the past couple of years, so that you don't keep having wounds and having colored lenses that you're looking at the world through that are not helpful, because that's not who you are. That's not the best way to live. There's a better way. There's a better way. You're not condemned to living the life that you've been living up to now the way you've been living it. There's a better way, and there are options to finding that better way. I'm very passionate about this, and maybe I'll do several other videos, maybe clarifying what I'm talking about. Maybe this video is not as clear as I want it to be, but I think that we need to be I personally, the reason why I'm very passionate about this is because I see people going, and even for myself, because I am still doing the work on my own self when it comes to inner healing, because I used to just behave anyhow because I didn't realize that my behavior was stemming from a lot of wounds that I carried. And so as I've become aware now, as I've become self-conscious and self-aware, I'm just like, wow, there's just so much that is underneath that we need to work on, that we need to uncover. So and you know what, I think it's so important to bring all the things that are like hidden to light, because it's in light that you can actually deal with those things, right? Bring it out, bring it into the light, and find out ways to deal with it. But when it's hidden and it's in darkness, then it can just fester and just become worse, and like there's no way to even deal with it because it's hidden, right? So yeah, so that's why I'm very passionate about this. And you know what, and I see people, and I see that they can do so much with their lives. There's such potential in them, but they're just crippled by the wounds that are in them that they haven't been able to resolve, and they're just walking in this life just without real healing. And healing is not just physical, but it's also spiritual, and it's also emotional, and it's also like internal, right? And so that's kind of why I just want people to kind of get a sense of who you really are, and then from who you really are, work towards who you want to be, because you cannot get to who you want to be without knowing who you are right now, you know. So that's my plea. I mean, I hope I've made a case for, you know, getting some inner healing work done. Every single person, no matter who you are, whether you're a parent who you think you're so old so you don't need to do any of this work, or whether you're like in middle school, high school, I don't know who watches my videos, but wherever you are, please find someone that you can talk to. Find someone that you can share your hearts with. Do some of the work yourself. Be honest with yourself. Look at the patterns that you have. Look at the things that hurt you. Figure out why did they hurt you. Look back. Try and, you know, remember the things that happened to you, and bring them out into the light and work on them. Yeah. This video was a little deep, more serious than the videos that I've done before, but I think it's so important because this is my heart, right? To get people to a place where we are not just flapping blindly in the wind trying to figure out our lives, but we have a little bit more grounding and direction, because we really know who we are and we really know where we want to get to. So I hope this helps. Leave your comments in the comment section below. More than anything, go out there and look for help, okay? And don't be afraid, or don't be self-conscious, or don't let the stigma stop you. There's no stigma. It's an illusion, okay? And if you have friends who are going to make fun of you that you are taking your life in your hands and being intentional about your inner healing, then maybe they're not good friends, you know? I'm not saying that don't be friends with them, but you know, I'm just putting it out there. So anyway, love you guys. I'm talking too much. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you share this video with other people. I think it's gonna help a lot of people. And guys, let's get some work done internally, not just externally, but internally, okay? I love you guys, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Okay,